Hello Bloomington, I'm Mayor Tim Busse, and this is your Council Minute for the week of September 5th. No council meeting this week because of the Labor Day holiday, so I wanted to take a few minutes today to talk about two informational presentations the Council heard last week at our August 29th meeting. Both of those presentations had to do with the proposed Bloomington Sales Tax. We've been talking about a possible Bloomington Sales Tax for a while now, but the discussion went quiet when the state legislature didn't get their work done back in May and the tax bill didn't get finished. A quick review. A Bloomington sales tax would be a half-cent added to sales tax charged within the boundaries of the city. Rather than that half-cent going to the state of Minnesota, revenue collected through the Bloomington sales tax would stay right here in Bloomington. The tax would only apply to items that are currently taxable, meaning that things like clothing and groceries still would not be taxed. According to initial analysis done by the Minnesota Extension Service, a Bloomington sales tax would generate approximately $11 million each year. And given the size and the strength of Bloomington's retail economy, it was estimated that 75% of that sales tax would be paid for by visitors to Bloomington. 25% would be paid for by Bloomington residents. The revenue collected would be used for specific capital projects that are regionally significant. The projects we talked about include a substantial renovation of Bloomington Ice Garden, a new community health and wellness center to replace our public health building and Creekside Community Center, an expansion of the Bloomington Center for the Arts that would add a concert hall, and a replacement of the clubhouse at Dwan Golf Course, as well as course improvements. This whole discussion is important in the context of Bloomington's capital investment needs. Many of our physical assets in Bloomington need significant investment or replacement. For years, one of the top priorities of city elected officials and staff and residents was to keep property taxes as low as possible, which is a great goal, and it worked well for Bloomington for decades. But the result was underinvestment in our physical capital, our buildings, and now we're at a point where significant reinvestment is needed. The logic of a Bloomington sales tax is that it would reduce the cost to Bloomington residents to improve these facilities and would instead spread the cost across a larger group. The estimates provided by the Minnesota Extension Service were based on sales tax numbers from 2016 and 2018. Obviously, the world has changed a bit since then. So we asked the Extension Service to take another look and to provide an update to those numbers. To the surprise of no one, the sales tax numbers for 2020 were considerably lower than what we saw in 2016 or 18. The pandemic had a huge impact on retail and service sales. In 2016, total taxable sales in Bloomington were $3.2 billion. That number dropped to $2 billion in 2020. Again, I can't imagine anyone is surprised by that. If a Bloomington sales tax were in effect, the city would have generated $11 million in 2016 and about $6.8 million in 2020. The good news is that the Extension Service expects taxable sales to bounce back. It estimates a Bloomington sales tax could generate more than $12 million by 2023 if taxable sales return to pre-pandemic trends. It does acknowledge that the historic shakeup in spending due to COVID makes its forecasts somewhat uncertain. The biggest unknown comes from online sales, which, as you know, increased significantly during 2020. Extension isn't able to nail down the amount of online sales using its current data sources, but I think it's highly likely that online sales will continue to increase in the future. We also learned that Extension revised downward its estimate of the amount that would come from non-Bloomington residents. As I mentioned earlier, its original estimate was 75% from non-residents, and now it's revised that estimate to 60%. Extension made the change after reviewing non-resident spending using 2020 data and looking at shifts in specific sales in specific categories like building materials or electronics. It's certainly something to consider as we continue this conversation. Now, as a reminder, if a Bloomington sales tax is signed into law, it would ultimately go before Bloomington voters for final approval. Residents would have the opportunity to vote yes or no for each project separately. So with that in mind, we wanted to gauge how Bloomington residents were feeling about a proposed Bloomington sales tax. So we brought in the Morris Leatherman Company, a local research firm, to conduct a random sample phone survey of residents in late July and early August. As you can see from this chart, the demographics of the people who responded was truly representative, with a good split of newer residents and long-timers, a good balance of ages, and a 50-50 split on gender. The results of the survey were very interesting, as were the comments from Peter Leatherman, the consultant who did the survey and someone who has been doing this for a long time. In a question about quality of life in Bloomington, 92% rated Bloomington's quality of life favorably and 8% rated it unfavorably. That balance isn't uncommon for cities. If you rate the quality of life in your city as fair or poor, you're probably looking to move. But we heard from Mr. Leatherman that what differentiates cities is the excellent rating. Minnesotans are a historically tough crowd. Most often, good is good enough. Mr. Leatherman told us that on this question, the typical excellent rating is 11%. So, with 26% of people saying the quality of life in Bloomington is excellent, that's more than twice the median rating of excellent compared to other cities. That's a very strong quality of life rating. The survey also asked how people feel about the value of the city services provided. This really is a where the rubber hits the road kind of question. It's asking people to evaluate the property taxes they pay and the city services they receive. How do they rate that value? In our survey, 73% rate the value favorably and 20% rate it unfavorably. Again, back to Mr. Leatherman. He pointed out that the most effective evaluation of this question is a ratio of the favorable to the unfavorable. He told us that the norm in most cities is 2 to 1. The favorable to unfavorable here in Bloomington is 3.5 to 1. So a significant number of residents in Bloomington, Mr. Leatherman described it as extraordinarily strong, are saying they receive a positive value in services and amenities for the taxes they pay. That's good to know. The survey also asked about the 4 projects being considered. This chart shows support and opposition, but it also shows intensity. Dark blue is strong support, dark red is strong opposition. You can see that a new health and wellness center has the strongest support. 76% indicate they support it. The next highest level of support is for the Center of the Arts expansion, with 72% in favor. 62% were in favor of improvements to Dwan, and 57% favored improvements to the Ice Garden. So all 4 proposed projects were supported by a majority of survey respondents, and 2 of the projects had overwhelming support. The bottom line here, Mr. Leatherman said that if the projects were on the ballot this fall, it's very, very likely they all would have passed. Finally, a question was asked about support for a local sales tax based on the fact that a good portion of the tax will be collected from people outside of the community. Now, the question was asked using the 75% level because the new 60% estimate from Extension wasn't available yet. But you can see that 2/3 of respondents said they would be somewhat or much more likely to support a local sales tax if a majority of that tax would be collected by people from outside the community. That's a lot of information and a lot to chew on. If you want to hear the complete discussion, go to the city's YouTube page and watch the last meeting. There's also plenty of information available regarding the proposed Bloomington sales tax. Look for the link on the city's webpage. That will do it for this week's Council Minute. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay safe, Bloomington.